1, 0. Here we go. All right, everybody. Good evening. Aline, David, João, Rayane, Felipe, Mateus. Thanks for coming, everybody. It's very good to be here. This is the behavior economics of global affairs. We are kind of in the middle of weeks 5 and 6, but we're still using the class notes for week 5, which are about nudge, empurrãozinho. So we're going to wrap up discussions about nudge tonight, and then we're going to start talking about another very interesting topic too. Okay? We're going to be talking about a model, kind of a behavioral model of how companies work. There are some more students showing up, so I'm going to grant them admission as they show up. All right? Okay. Before I start, let me ask you if you guys want to ask any question, if you make a comment. And let me emphasize that you guys have the second list of exercises due on July the 6th, which means tomorrow. All right? So everybody, please pay attention. You guys have to submit your answers by tomorrow. Otherwise, that will not count for you. It's just like you got 0 on that. All right? Okay. So as more people show up to the class, I'm going to remind you again about this. But then again, any questions, any comments, any suggestions so far? Okay, so let me ask a question as if I were you. So let's suppose that I'm here and I'm thinking, hey, Luis, lots of people are not showing up for class. Are they going to fail this class because of that? And then my answer is yes and no. Well, it doesn't mean that if you miss a class, you skip a class or maybe a couple of classes. It doesn't mean you are, uh, not approved. You're going to fail the class. It's not like that. It's not automatic. But it turns out that if you keep missing classes, and especially if you don't submit your list of exercises on time, then yeah, you're going to fail. Okay. What about attendance? Do you check attendance? And you say, yes, I do. For these meetings that we have on Wednesdays, I always get kind of a report from Google Meet. After the class is over, Google Meet sent me an automatic email message saying, so here are the guys who showed up. Felipe, Mateus, Ian, Caio, Aline, David, Ryan. All right, so I know who has been here and I know how long you guys have been here. So let's suppose that Aline shows up and she spends like 5 or 10 minutes with us, and then for some reason, she has to leave. In the report, I will get that Aline showed up and how long she stayed with us. Okay? So, yes, I can check that. So, I'm not going to fail you, any of you, just because you missed a couple of classes. Okay? But if you keep missing classes, and especially if you don't submit your answers to the list of exercises, then you are in trouble. Então, só explicando aqui em português, não é que se você perder 1, 2, 3 aulas presenciais, presenciais não, síncronas como essa, quer dizer que você foi reprovado. Não é assim. Mas se você combinar não participação nos momentos síncronos com deixar de submeter lista de exercícios, aí sim, aí você vai ser reprovado, tá? All right, but then this is just like another explanation. Thanks. All right, guys, so we are talking about nudge. I have submitted to you the class notes. We have discussed a little bit some examples of nudges, and then I have sent you this video for the activities on Friday. But even that way, I would like to go back and have a quick look at what we can understand about nudge, how it works, how it doesn't work, okay? All right, so let me share here my screen with you. Please confirm to me that you guys can see this red screen saying persuasion, nudge, and sludge. Can you
Yeah.
guys see it? All right, thanks. Okay, then, so we talked about what marketing professionals do. So they try to somehow uh, manage your attention. They want to manage your attention. They want to somehow drive you into making some specific decisions, and they use many tactics to do that. So we talked about those, but this is not what nudge is about. So let me be very specific about the definition of nudge here, okay? So it says, nudges, those are aspects of choice architecture, são aspectos da arquitetura de escolhas. Então você desenha um conjunto de escolhas para alguém that tend to alter people's behavior in a predictable way without limiting any option or significantly their economic incentives. I'm sorry, let me just grant permission here to someone else who's showing up. Okay. So, são aspectos da arquitetura de escolha que tendem a alterar o padrão ali de comportamento das pessoas de uma forma previsível, sem restringir as opções que elas têm e sem mudar de uma maneira drástica o, o cálculo de incentivos, do que ela pode dizer, o que vale a pena, o que não vale a pena. So let me be very specific about something that is not a nudge, okay? Suppose that I told you guys, all right, guys, whoever shows up to classes is going to make 10 reais. I'm going to make a Pix here, and I'm going to transfer to you 10 reais for any time that you show up for classes. So I'm buying your presence here, your participation here. I'm purchasing your participation. I'm bribing you to participate. Now, this is not nudge, ok? Se eu viro para você e falo que eu vou te dar dinheiro para você vir para a sala de aula, para participar, isso não é nudge, isso não é um empurrãozinho. Porque eu estou alterando a estrutura de incentivo que você tem. Qual que é a estrutura de incentivo que você tem? É assim, você vem para a sala de aula, você aprende um monte de coisa importante e lá na frente você ganha um emprego melhor do que as pessoas que não fizeram isso. Essa que é a estrutura de incentivo. Quando eu ofereço dinheiro para você vir para a sala de aula, eu estou mudando essa conta. Agora não. Agora você vem para a sala de aula, já ganha alguma coisa para cada aula que você assiste e lá na frente você pode ou não ter aquele benefício de ter um emprego melhor. But anyway, when we are talking about nudge, we don't want to change drastically, significantly, the economic incentives. So let me make you another example, okay? Let's suppose that we make this agreement. All right. Imagine that we are negotiating 10 reais, okay? So the agreement is going to be like this. All right, guys. If we start this class today, and then I'm going to make this agreement with you, this bet with you. Whoever shows up for every class, every single class, by the end of the semester, I'm going to give you 20 reais. Okay? But to participate in this bet, you have to give me 10 reais tonight. Ok? Então imagine que eu faço com vocês um acordo assim, olha pessoal, tem uma aposta. Cada um de vocês vai me dar R$10. Se vocês participarem de todas as aulas síncronas, né, todas as quartas-feiras, daqui até o final do semestre, no final do semestre, em vez de devolver seus R$10, eu te devolvo 20. Aí você pode falar assim, mas isso aí também é uma forma de comprar as pessoas. Você está pagando pelo tempo. Não, mas peraí. O que você faz com R$10 a mais na sua vida? Será que eu estou mudando tanto assim a sua vida? Então, aqueles R$10 a mais pode ser mais assim, uma coisa de vaidade, de você, sei lá, colocar assim uma forma de auto-incentivo. Eu vou ganhar um dinheirinho a mais. Eu estou guardando um dinheiro a mais. Coisa assim. Estou aplicando com uma taxa de retorno de 100% em 2 meses. So, in this case, you could argue, well, it looks like a nudge, okay? Because, it's not about the money. I'm not giving you such a prize that it's going to change completely the way you look at the classes, okay? So, a nudge can involve money. Well, it can, but most of the times it doesn't, all right? Let me see. 3 jantares no RU, all right? R$20 significam 3 jantares no RU, é isso? Ou R$10? R$10 são 3 jantares. Puxa vida, o RU é realmente o mais barato do Brasil. All right. So, pay attention to this, okay, guys? Nudge, it's not about bribing people. It's just like creating some kind of attention or salience to the choice, okay? You are helping people into making better choices for themselves, not for you, not for me. Okay, so we saw many examples of those, and those stairs are fantastic. We showed you many. Sometimes it was basically about the timing of the message and not so much how well designed the message was. And we understood that sometimes people can, step over the line. This is not nudge anymore. This is like you went beyond what you're supposed to do, okay? So in this case, you could cause someone's harm. And then this is not nudge anymore. So it turns out that we have to think about ethical interventions, okay? So if nudge is an intervention, and we respect people and their rights, then we can't make interventions just because we want them. We have to be extremely careful whenever we are submitting people into experiments or something like that, okay? Essentially, if you want to run experiments with people, you have to be authorized to do that, okay? You can't just start doing it, okay? All right. So, and when you're proposing any sort of experiment, people would judge things like this. How much this intervention will impact people's autonomy? Will that prevent people from acting by themselves? Are you assuming someone else's responsibilities? So, if that is the case, well, that's not ethical. You shouldn't do that. The second point is safety. Safety means you don't want to put people in danger, any sort of danger, okay? So we have to be careful. It doesn't matter how small the danger may look like to you, you can't do that. And the last point is welfare. You don't want to cause people suffering. You don't want to have people, harmed. Uh, in their feelings or things like that. So then we can see that in this table here, we have to ask the questions. How good is this intervention in terms of its purpose? De propósito. O propósito, aquilo é beneficiar ao cara que está sofrendo, a pessoa que está sofrendo a intervenção, ou é a você mesmo ou é a outras pessoas, okay? So we have to somehow try and uh, increase the quality of someone's decision. You don't want to be their parents. You don't want to change in such a drastic way the set of benefits that people will, just be bribed by your intervention. Okay. So think about incentives. Think about how the mechanisms work. Okay. How the intervention will work. The idea here is that we should seek to educate people. You have to make participation optional. You have to give people the chance to stop participating at any time they want. And you should try to limit people's biases, or at least show them, uh, reveal to them some of the biases that could be harming their decisions. Okay. And finally, we have to be honest. We have to be true. We have to be transparent. We don't want to nudge people into doing something good. And even when it's good for them, but we want them to know that you are there. Okay. We don't want to do that in such a hidden way that people cannot see what you are trying to do. Okay. All right. So those are the qualities we want to look for when you design a nudge. Unfortunately, in our lives, many times we face the opposite of nudge, which is sludge. What is the best translation for sludge in Portuguese? What would you guys suggest as a good translation for sludge? Tem gente que traduziria sludge por lama, ou sei lá, resíduo, barreira. É alguma coisa que entope os canos. Sludge é aquele material que faz, né, a sujeira que vai acumulando nos canos e que acaba gerando o entupimento dos canos. Sludge é aquilo que está na canaleta dos nossos canais, que não deixa, às vezes, correr. Então, é uma espécie de uma lama, de um resíduo, de uma barreira física que impede um fluxo normal, impede as pessoas de tomarem as decisões que elas querem. All right, so we see that a lot. And as soon as we understand this concept, we are going to see those things even more frequently in our daily lives. You know, many times you come to school and they say, oh, you want to cancel your class? All right, so you have to take these 3 forms. You're going to sign them all, and then you have to bring copies of your ID. You have to pay this amount of 15 reais. Then you have to show up at the RCA. Then you're going to wait 15 days. And then you're going to come back and talk to the coordinator. So, se eu criar aquele monte de etapas e dificultar, burocratizar demais a sua opção de cancelar uma aula, né? Vamos supor, você não está gostando de uma disciplina, você quer cancelar aquela aula. Se eu crio lá um monte de barreiras, um monte de exigências, um monte de empecilhos para que você simplesmente cancele a sua aula, o que eu estou fazendo é isso aqui, ó, sludge. Sludge é o contrário do nudge. O nudge, a gente quer estimular as pessoas a fazer uma escolha que é boa para elas mesmas. No sludge, a gente quer impedir as pessoas de fazerem aquilo que elas querem, em nosso benefício. Então, quando a gente faz isso, o que a gente está fazendo é sabotando a escolha de alguém. And unfortunately, this happens all the time. When you try to cancel a service over the phone, when you try to cancel some sort of subscription, it is always bureaucratic. It is always a lot of red tape. Do you guys know this expression, red tape? Todo mundo conhece essa expressão? A
No.
expressão, ok, a expressão red tape é o que a gente chama de burocracia. Né? Quando você tem muitas etapas, muitas exigências e que torna difícil um processo prosseguir, né? I can see a question here in our chat. Kyle is asking, isn't the concept of better choices subjective and open to interpretation? A ideia de melhores escolhas não seria subjetivas e abertas a interpretações? Well, yes, Kyle, I think so. But then again, when we are trying to design this sort of intervention, you may not know immediately what is the best way to go. So you have to keep trying and experimenting first with some people and try to learn from them. That's what you do whenever you, for example, when you apply a survey, when you design a survey, that's how you do it. Então, suponha que você, Caio, vai fazer uma pesquisa de opinião sobre o consumo de alimentos saudáveis entre os estudantes universitários, tá? A primeira coisa, você vai lá, vai preparar um questionário, né? Mas, às vezes, o questionário que você aplica, a pessoa pode não estar entendendo o que você está perguntando. Você pode estar perguntando assim, você prioriza a sua primeira refeição do dia? Aí alguém pode virar e falar assim, não, mas a minha primeira refeição do dia é o almoço, que eu sempre saio de casa sem comer nada de manhã. Não, será que a minha pergunta não está sujeita a alguma reinterpretação e tal? É verdade. So you try that questionnaire first with just a few people, and then you apply the survey to the whole population. The same kind of thing you try to do when you have a nudge. So you observe how people make choices, then you try to emphasize the consequences of all the choices. So if you can let me give an example. So people don't want to participate in organ donation programs, okay? As pessoas não costumam querer participar no programa de doação de órgãos. É muito raro eles participarem. É muito raro as pessoas doarem sangue no Brasil. Tudo isso é muito raro. All right, so let's suppose that you want to design a nudge for that, okay? Vamos supor que você quer desenhar um nudge para isso. Alguma forma de ajudar as pessoas a fazerem o bem para elas mesmas. All right. One of the ways you can do that is try to say, all right, 1 out of 10 university students suffer accidents during their college lives, and they need blood to get alive, or something like that. So, se você trouxer a informação de que, sei lá, 1 em cada 10 estudantes no período de graduação, por uma questão ou outra, acabam precisando de uma transfusão de sangue, você está falando para aquela pessoa assim, olha, eu não estou pedindo o sangue para você salvar outra pessoa, não. Estou pedindo para você salvar você mesmo. Porque daqui a pouquinho pode ser você que vai estar precisando de sangue. All right, so when you present the ideas, yeah, it may be subjective and it may be subject to interpretation, but we're just trying to highlight the full set of consequences of people's choices. And you want to highlight the ones that tend to help them making better choices. Você tenta dar mais ênfase para os detalhes de uma decisão. Não é que você vai mudar as escolhas delas. Ela continua tendo a opção de doar ou não de doar sangue. Ela continua tendo as opções. Você não mudou isso. Você fez e falou assim, olha, doar sangue tem consequências positivas que às vezes você não está vendo. Não é só para os outros, é para você mesmo. All right, good. Okay, so yeah, it is always subjective, but we can try and manage that with tests initially, okay? Oh, sorry. I think all right, here I am. Okay, so sludge, they happen all the time that we ask for public services. Unfortunately, in Brazil, it's almost like the government is trying to ask you to stop demanding services. It is so hard to access services from a public agency in Brazil that many times people just give up. Uma das principais razões por que as pessoas compram seguro-saúde particular é porque elas têm medo da quantidade de burocracia e das negativas de atendimento que elas podem ter no SUS. Elas têm medo de chegar num hospital e não ter atendimento e tal. Alright, so it is so hard to access services from public agencies in Brazil that what we actually do is to sludge people out of public services. People just try to find other alternatives. That's what happens all the time. Now, many times, the sludges are designed to entice you or to capture your behavior. Okay, and what they do, well, they understand your biases, so they can frame the decision in a way that you feel bad. They can bet that you are not going to be as deliberate and to follow on in your decision for a long time. So they explore your weaknesses, your cognitive weaknesses, your tendency to procrastinate, and sometimes the difficulties that you have when you're presented lots and lots of information. So all of that, it is deliberate, it is intentional. So when they design sludge, they want to prevent you from doing what you actually want to do. Okay. So if you want to cancel subscriptions in an Apple Music, sometimes it's hard. When you cancel a contract, they force you to read a lots and lots of pages, or at least to agree with a button, and you don't know what you're agreeing. Now think about this message here. How many times have you guys clicked on a button like this saying accept without reading the terms of services? Sinceramente, pessoal, levanta a mão aí se você já apertou um botãozinho desse sem ter lido todos os termos de um determinado acordo, de um aplicativo, Não, quem não levantou, eu sei é que ou está mentindo ou está longe do computador. Porque todo mundo aperta esse danado desse botãozinho. Ninguém sabe todas as condições que o Google cobra para a gente estar usando essa ferramenta, não. Ninguém sabe as condições todas que a gente está aceitando quando a gente baixa o WhatsApp para o nosso celular. A gente só aperta esse botãozinho. It turns out that the number of terms and conditions is so large that they know you're not going to read it. And if they were few conditions, these guys would expand them deliberately so that you don't read. A Aline está falando, a gente ou aceita ou a gente não usa. É verdade. Mas, por exemplo, já repararam que no Brasil, quando você acessa um site, aí ele fala assim, clique aqui para aceitar os nossos cookies. Mas não tem outra opção. Se você acessa um site na Europa, ele fala assim, clique aqui para aceitar os nossos cookies, ou clique aqui nessa outra coisa para rejeitar todos os cookies. So that was not an option. There was a rule. There was a law saying people has to present you the option of not getting any cookie. Yeah, it was a legal decision. It was a law. It was passed throughout the European Union, if you have a website working in their servers, it has to obey to this law. You have to let people know and have the both choices: accept all the cookies or reject them all. And notice, Aline, when you reject them all, you still can go through the pages. Eles colocam lá de tal forma que, mesmo quando você rejeita todos os cookies, você ainda assim tem o direito de acessar aquele material. All right, so I mean, this is not what people want to do. Yeah, we should have the same thing, but it turns out that we don't have so many good authorities. You know, these guys at Congresso Nacional, they are not really thinking about us, you know. They are not losing their sleep thinking about our welfare. Unfortunately, they are not. Então, a turma que a gente manda lá para Brasília, os nossos deputados e senadores, esses caras não estão perdendo o sono deles pensando em como nos ajudar. I can see your hand is up. I don't know if you have a question, Ali. No, it was just from the previous one, right? Okay. So, I mean, this is fascinating stuff. And when we discuss all of that, what I'm trying to do is try to warn you. Come on, guys, we have to be smart. And whenever we think about decisions, we have to understand that people are not that rational. They are not that smart. And it's not only about giving them information. You see, you hear that all the time. You turn on the TV, you turn on the radio, you watch the news. It's always people saying something like this: we have to educate people, we have to give information to people, and all our problems will be solved. And it turns out that it's not as simple as that. Information is not enough. Information is a very important part of people's decisions, but it's not enough. Sometimes we have to help them. We have to help people making better decisions. Information may not suffice, ok? Pode não ser suficiente a gente dar informação. All right then. Any questions about this? Go ahead.
Yeah. When you say that we have to help people to make decisions, how can we help people without consider the information?
Oh no, yeah, you understood me wrong. Obviously, you have to give information, but sometimes you have to facilitate. You have to help them interpret information. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it is very common, for example, in the United States, people present statistics to you not in percentage terms. They say something like this: one out of three people will need transplant in their lifetimes. Então, em vez de apresentar uma probabilidade de 33%, ele fala assim: um de cada três pessoas ao longo da sua vida vai precisar de alguma forma de transplante. Quando você dá essa informação, parece que 33% e um de cada três são a mesma coisa, mas não é a mesma coisa. Para as pessoas, um de cada três, ela olha em volta e fala assim: na casa dela tem quatro. Fala assim: tem uma grande chance de que um de nós aqui vai precisar. Então, this is the kind of example. In information, yes, we need information, but somehow information may not be enough. You have to treat information, you have to qualify information, you have to make information feel like something that you can touch, that you can get your grip on it, okay? All right. So, why I'm teaching you this? Why are we studying nudge? Let's think about this for a minute, okay? Why are we studying nudge? Where can I use this sort of information? Now, let's suppose that you understood every single thing I told you. You understand that choices can be designed, and you can do that in an ethical way, and you can use all your power, your intelligence, your abilities, your resources to help people making better choices, okay? But you don't want to make the choices for them. So let's suppose that you want to do it. When or where you're going to do that? Quando é que você vai usar esse tipo de informação? Onde? Any guess? Alguém tem algum palpite de onde que a gente vai usar a informação sobre nudge? Como que a gente vai usar? Para quê? So let me suppose some possibilities here. Let's suppose that you are a business manager. Vamos supor que você seja gerente de uma empresa. Você acha que no seu trabalho pode abrir ali um espaço para você usar nudge? O que vocês acham, gente? Como um gestor, né? Um líder de uma equipe dentro de uma empresa. Você acha que pode ter alguma oportunidade para você aplicar o conhecimento que você está adquirindo aqui? Ó, o Lucas acha que sim. Então vamos pensar um exemplo. Lucas, imagine que você está vendo que cada membro da sua equipe está chegando para trabalhar numa hora diferente. E com isso as pessoas não estão conversando, uma pessoa começa a fazer o trabalho, a outra já tinha começado. Você está vendo que você está gastando dinheiro e tempo à toa. Você quer fazer um jeito de as pessoas chegarem na hora sem mudar completamente as regras do jogo. How could you stimulate people to get in the workplace on time without, I don't know, imposing a penalty or giving them a prize for that? How could you do that?
Maybe talking about the benefits.
Yeah, you can talk about it. You can say, look, that is important. I mean, if you show up on time, I notice. But then again, is there a way you can show them that you notice? A discreet way, like just I'll give you a hint, okay? When I went to work in a company, the first thing I usually do is even before I turn on the computer, I go grab a coffee. So let's suppose that you have this coffee machine at the workplace and you say, for anyone who wants to have free coffee, it's going to be free for a very specific time from 8 o'clock to 8:15. If you show up at those times, free coffee. Now you may ask me, come on, how much people pay for a cup of coffee? Yeah, it's like one real, 150. It's a very small amount of money. So we are not bribing people. It's not like you are giving them different salaries. You're just saying, you know what? If you show up here 8 o'clock to 8:15, free coffee, and I'll be here. And you can talk to me about anything. All right. So I'm the boss, and I'm saying, hey guys, if you want to talk to me about anything, please notice that I am here at 8 o'clock to 8:15, and I'm gonna be at the cafeteria. Okay. As long as people know that I am there, they will also know two things. First, they can benefit from it. Second, Luis will notice if you don't show up. He may not do anything against you. After all, I mean, he understands that some people have to drop the kids at school, some other people live further from the company. Yeah, I'm not gonna challenge any of you about that. But I can say I noticed. I come here at 8 o'clock and I noticed. So when I was the boss, when I was the boss, I would make sure that every single member of my team would know that I spent 8 hours every day at the company. Se eu chegasse mais tarde, eu fazia todo mundo saber que eu saía mais tarde. Se eu chegasse mais cedo, eu fazia todo mundo saber que eu estou saindo mais cedo porque eu cheguei mais cedo. So I was just trying to give them an example, right? And to give them the impression that I notice. I'm not buying people's presents. I'm not, I don't know, uh, sabotaging their work. I'm not, trying to put fear into their minds. It's not that. It's just like saying the boss notice he is paying attention to this, and then people will make a little more effort to try and to participate. So you may do that with your kids. You may do that with your spouse, your husband, your wife. You may do that with your neighbors. You may do that with anyone you relate to. As long as you're not manipulating people, you're not doing that in a hidden way. Você não está fazendo isso de uma forma escondida, velada, para manipular o comportamento das pessoas. Você está sendo franco, aberto. Está aqui, ó. É isso que eu faço. Eu acho que é justo. Se eu fizer assim, por que você não acha que é justo? Então, all right. So, nudge is something that can help us in many, many situations. It could help us the way we deal with our children, so the way we educate our children. Yes, you have to teach them to have autonomy, right? Então, quando a gente tem filhos, a gente não quer fazer tudo para eles, mesmo que a gente possa. Então tem hora que tem que falar assim: vem cá que agora, minha filha, agora você vai lavar a sua calcinha. Ó, você está vendo? Mamãe lava as calcinhas dela. Por que você não vai lavar a sua calcinha no banho? Você também vai lavar. Olha lá, ó, as da mamãe lá. Estão lá todas de penduradinhas. Agora você também vai lavar. It's obvious that we could do that. But as soon as we show them, we reveal to them this example, we're trying to push them to adopt the correct behavior, right? So, nudge may be a form of education. This sort of education that is very subtle is still very effective, and it has to be ethical. Remember this, please, okay? It has to be ethical, it has to be transparent, and it can't harm people in any way. All right, so you guys hopefully will remember this lots and lots of times in your professional lives later on, okay? Not only when you're dealing with your clients or when you're dealing with some sort of business partner, you're going to deal with that all the time. Any questions so far? Okay, good. So, what I'm going to do now is just to start talking about a new topic. But I have to make kind of an introduction of what we're doing here before I move on and I show you this new set of class notes, okay? All right, guys. So far, we have discussed individual behavior. Let's see. We talked about bounded rationality, racionalidade limitada. Then we talked about system 1 and system 2. So we were describing what could be going on in a person's brain when they make quick decisions, when they stop and think about a decision. Then we talked a little bit about cognitive biases, right? We talked about planning fallacy. We We're talking about so many um, cognitive biases, uh, gambler's fallacy. We talked about the present bias. We talked about what else? Loss aversion. We talked about hindsight bias. So there were many ways that our brains make mistakes systematically, right? So those were cognitive bias. Then we moved on and we start and we say, let's discuss prospect theory. Prospect theory is a very specific contribution to this study of individual behavior. In prospect theory, we are talking about risks, probabilities, and how people make mistakes, how they subjectively treat or weight certain probabilities in order to change their decisions, right? Okay, so this is a huge topic. Decisions and the risks, well, they are all over us when we buy stuff, when we invest in stuff, when we decide for a job and not the other one. All the time we have to make decisions under risks, ok? Decisões sob risco, decisões com incerteza, são presentes em toda a nossa vida, em tudo que a gente faz. A maneira como a gente escolhe ir para o trabalho. Ah, hoje eu vou de ônibus, hoje eu vou de carro, hoje eu vou de carona. Tudo tem risco. O risco pode ser pequeno, mas sempre tem uma probabilidade daqui e dali das coisas darem certo ou dar errado. All right, so we talked about prospect theory and decision under risk, okay? Then we discussed nudge and sludge. Nudge, when we create opportunities so that people make better choices, and sludge, when some business try to prevent us from making the best choices we want. All right, okay. All of this, for all of that, we had our focus on individual behavior. What I do, what would Aline do, what would Douglas do, okay? Up to this point, we were talking about people making their own decisions, what happens, what they think, how they decide. Now, we're going to change a little bit our perspective. Now, we're going to think about how we make decisions collectively, okay? And the first step we're going to take is to talk about decisions in a company, in an organization. All right, we all participate in organizations, even though we don't even know, but we do participate. Se você mora num apartamento, você participa de uma organização chamada condomínio. Se você está aqui na universidade, você é uma estudante ou um estudante dentro de uma universidade, você é um membro dessa organização. Se você trabalha numa empresa, você é um membro daquela organização. Se você é um cidadão, nasceu no Brasil, você é um membro de uma grande organização. So, when we are in such an environment, in such a framework, we could say, it turns out that we don't make decisions only thinking about ourselves. We tend to look around, compare what we want to do with what other people are doing, and then decision gets trickier than when we are alone, okay? Quando a gente está num ambiente, que a gente faz parte de uma equipe, de um time, que a gente está numa organização, a gente acaba levando em conta muito mais o comportamento dos outros quando a gente vai fazer uma decisão. A gente tem que olhar muito para com medo de a gente estar fazendo alguma coisa errada, com medo de a gente ficar diferente. A tendência a se apegar à conformidade, né? A obedecer o padrão do que todo mundo está fazendo é muito maior. So, yeah, things get trickier. But we're going to start talking about organization decision with a very, very special model, okay? We're going to start with this theory. Nós vamos começar com uma teoria. modelo. And this model I'm going to describe to you has a very interesting name. The name is garbage can. O nome do modelo é lata de lixo. Come on. We're going to talk about theory. A theory, and the name of the theory is garbage can. Yeah, é uma teoria chamada modelo organizacional lata de lixo. Well, you may tell me right away, this doesn't look like a very good choice of name, right? Yeah, it was. It was an unfortunate choice of names. But the guys who developed this theory, they ended up thinking something like this. You know what? It's even good that people have this trouble to understand why we call it garbage can. The idea, when they chose the name, it was just like this. Suppose that you are walking down the street and you see a garbage can. Now, can you guess what is inside that garbage can just by looking at it? Você conseguiria deduzir ou adivinhar o que tem dentro de uma lata de lixo, assim, só olhando por fora? Well, you can't, you know? Sometimes you look inside and you're going to see just paper, you know? Lost paper, old paper. Uh, that's it, just paper. Some other time you come and you look at the garbage can, you're going to see plastic. Sometimes you're going to see some sort of organic trash, right? Like rest of fruits, of a meal, or something like this. Some other time you can open the lid and you can see like glasses, broken glasses. So inside this garbage can, you actually never know what you're going to find. All right, so what these guys are trying to say is this: when you wake up in the morning, you take the bus and you get into your company, sometimes you don't know what's waiting for you. Sometimes you're going to go there and say, I thought I was going to spend 8 hours here working on that report. But as soon as I got in, there was this meeting. My boss called me, and we spent the whole day talking about the plans for next year. Então, a ideia de que uma organização, dentro de uma organização, às vezes você chega lá para fazer a rotina, para fazer aquilo que é o trabalho esperado para aquela semana, e de repente se encontra uma coisa completamente diferente. Um ambiente diferente, com desafios diferentes, com questões que você nem imagina que teria. So, just to give you an example, in Recife, sometimes it rains a lot, sometimes you have floods, and sometimes when you get to your company, it's flooded, you know, it's water all over. Você chega no seu escritório, você chega para trabalhar e fala assim: não tem como trabalhar, a água tomou conta de tudo. O que você vai fazer? Vai lá pegar uma bota, pegar uma luva e ajudar a puxar a água com o rodo. Wait. I'm an economist. I deal with numbers. Where is my computer? This is my job here. Well, someone will look at you and say, sorry, Luis, today we're going to try and clean the company. We are all going to do that. This is the what we have for today. Just a minute, people. Excuse me, please. Sorry, I'm dealing with this cough, and sometimes I have to stop a little bit. So, you may look at me and say, come on, Luis, I know these things happen, you know, these things, thanks, Aline. Yeah, sometimes we just don't know what to expect when we get into our company or when we go to school. You may get there and we may find something very different happening. Yeah, it could happen. But somehow, I know what you guys are thinking. You guys may look at me and say, okay, Luis, but if I work in a good company, these things will not happen so often. It may happen, like sometimes unpredictable problems arise and you have to deal with them. But if a company is like a good company, a good work environment, people have thought things through, they have all possibilities to deal with the problems that could arise. So the whole organization becomes more predictable. It becomes more reliable. It is somehow more structured. Se uma empresa, uma organização é mais estruturada, ela acaba ficando mais previsível, ela acaba ficando mais fluida. Mas as pessoas sabem o que vai esperar, chegam na hora certa, todo mundo começa a trabalhar, sai dali com o resultado feito. Yeah. All right. So, what about this garbage can model? These guys come and say, okay, I'm going to describe to you this anomaly. Eu vou mostrar para vocês essa anomalia. And they say, I'm not telling you that your company or any specific company will behave like that all the time. That's not what I'm telling you. Eu não criei esse modelo para falar assim, a minha empresa, a minha organização, a minha universidade, ou meu congresso nacional, ou meu país. Eu não estou dizendo que ele vai trabalhar dessa maneira anômala o tempo todo. What they say is something like this. This organization is made of people. And whenever you have organizations made of people, these anomalies will show up at least part of the time. Então, o que ele fala é isso. Não é que eu vou descrever um modelo para falar de empresas mal geridas, em que essas coisas acontecem todo o tempo. Não é isso. O que ele fala é assim. Não importa o quanto bem organizada e estruturada a sua empresa é. Se ela lida com pessoas, pelo menos uma parte do tempo, ela vai ter que lidar com essa anomalia, com essas bagunças que a gente vai descrever. Alright? Does that make sense? I mean, it looks like a huge introduction. I know that you guys may be looking at me and say, wow, Luis, where are we going with all of that? Well, don't worry. I promise you it's going to be fun, okay? So let me pick up here my class notes and start talking about garbage can model of organizational behavior. Since I'm looking for my class notes here, let me make a few more comments about this thing. This theory, it is from business administration, right? Okay, so we are talking about something important for managers or for people who train to become managers. Nós estamos falando aqui de um assunto que é muito importante para a administração. Not exclusive to them, but for most of the times for business owners or business administrators. Okay? All right. So later on, I'm going to send you this link and you guys will be talking about cooperation. Okay? But don't worry about this for the moment. This is a game and it's a very interesting game. We're going to come back to that later. Okay? Much later. So, what we want to discuss or what we want to start talking about tonight is organizational behavior and behavioral economics. Okay, so how behavioral economics can be applied so we understand better how people behave in companies. Okay, so there are three big topics to discuss here. We want to talk about this garbage can organization, which is also called organized anarchy. We want to talk about sustainable business. So, sustainability is a very important issue nowadays, and maybe behavior economics has something to offer here. And we want to talk about unethical decision making in organizations, ok? Tô falando, gente, ó, com todas essas palavras, comportamento antiético nas organizações. Nós vamos falar aqui de casos como o caso da Odebrecht, o caso como da Vale do Rio Doce e o desastre de Brumadinho. Nós vamos falar aqui sobre escândalos de corrupção. All right, so we want to talk about unethical, antiético decision making in organizations, all right? So, I know the three topics are hot topics. The first one, you guys may not understand fully yet, but tonight we're going to start understanding what's going on. All right, check out what we have in this picture here. We have a garbage can, and inside you have problems. Sometimes they are separated from solutions. You have decision participants, decision makers, and we have a bunch of choice opportunities. Okay? So these four things may be mixed up inside here. And sometimes it may be hard to figure out what things are to be done first, okay? All right, so it all started in 1972 with a paper published by these three fellows here, Cohen, March, and Olson. This guy here, James March, his last name is March. This guy here is kind of a guru, or the most respectable guru of all the gurus, ok? Se você perguntar para aqueles caras famosos, assim, grandes presidentes de empresa, quem que eles admiram, muitas vezes eles vão falar sobre esse cara aqui, James March, tá? O guru dos gurus. All right, so what we are going to see, it's a very unusual description of organizations, okay? Vou mostrar para vocês uma descrição muito diferente, muito atípica das organizações. And this is the first idea. Some organizations are, algumas organizações são collections of choices looking for problems. Coleções de escolhas, de opções, procurando por problemas? Well, let's keep going. Issues and feelings looking for decision situations in which they might be aired. Sentimentos e questões procurando pelo ambiente de decisões, pelas salas de decisões, pelas arenas de decisões, para poder se manifestar. Para poder falar, olha, tem um problema, tem uma questão aqui. Sometimes organizations are solutions looking for issues to which they might be an answer. Geralmente a gente pensa assim, aparece um problema, vamos procurar a solução. Ah, procura, achamos a solução. Vai lá e aplica a solução para o problema. Mas o que esses caras estão falando é assim, às vezes tem uma solução lá doida procurando, ó, essa solução, me arruma aí um problema para eu me encaixar e tal. And sometimes organizations are decision makers looking for work. Pessoas procurando o que fazer. Now, you may look at this and say, come on, Luis, this is not a reasonable organization. And again, I'm going to emphasize this. We are not saying that this will describe the behavior in an organization most of the time. What we are saying is that at least part of the time, any organization will see things like this. Pelo menos alguma parte do tempo, qualquer organização, não importa o quanto bem estruturada, bem gerida, moderna, profissional ela seja, parte do tempo ela vai encontrar essas criaturas aí. Pessoas procurando o que fazer, solução procurando um problema para se encaixar, sentimentos e questões procurando um ambiente de decisão para poder ser ouvido, ser ouvida, e um monte de escolhas procurando por problemas. All right, so if that is not provocative, I don't know what it is. All right. Okay, so as I told you guys, we are just gonna start talking about these things tonight. Okay, we're not gonna finish the discussion, but let's give these guys some time to explain what they mean. Okay, what they mean by this garbage can organization. Okay, so they say, well, you have to look for three conditions in order that you can see these organizational dynamics. Para você ter essa dinâmica organizacional meio bagunçada de que a gente está falando, para que isso aconteça do jeito que a gente está descrevendo, são três condições. First, you have undefined or unstable preferences. What do we mean by this? Well, we say most of the times we like to work in a cool environment. A maioria das vezes a gente gosta de estar com o ar-condicionado ligado, a gente gosta de trabalhar num ambiente climatizado ali, friozinho, que não esteja muito úmido, nem muito quente. Yeah. But sometimes people just show up and say, you know what? I don't think we need air conditioning tonight or today. Actually, I think air conditioning is causing me problem with my lungs. I have this allergy. Uh, let's try just opening the windows. And then people start arguing. Come on, we always had air conditioning here. Now you want to open the windows. And they say, well, I changed my mind. I want to try. Okay, so if people change their opinions, then we have what we call unstable preferences. And it turns out that we are people, and people do change their preferences. It's not all the time, it's not every day, but yeah, we do change as time goes, as we get older, as we get married, as I don't know, we have kids, our preferences tend to change. Okay, yeah, so this is not such an extreme assumption. Yeah, I can see that happening in any organization. Now, let's take a look at the second condition. Technology is uncertain. Right, now let's be clear about this. When I say technology is uncertain, I say, okay, everybody knows how to do his or her work. Any of us, we are a part of a team. You know what we are supposed to do. You know when we are supposed to do. You know which equipment we are supposed to use and things like this. But sometimes people try different technologies. So let's say I'm preparing classes, and then I come with this idea. You know what? I'm going to have Chat GPT giving my classes now. You say, oh, come on, Luis, you can't do that. You are paid to be here and to teach people. Say, okay, yes, I see. But let me just use Chat GPT, and I'm going to give him, her, I don't know, it, instructions so that he will help me out with part of my job here. So I can change the way I do things. And you may look at me and say, come on, in a company, this is harder, you know. You can just change how you do your work without causing problems. And then you say, yeah, exactly. You know what? Sometimes people do this. Sometimes people want to do things differently. Yeah, it's not all the time, but yeah, I can see that happening too. Now, you may look at me and say, you know what, Luis? This is becoming more and more frequent these days because we have so many transitions. We are coming out of a pandemic. We have energetic transitions. We have this green revolution. We have global warming. We have digital transformation. So, yeah, it, things are changing fast. And, sometimes you, as a student, you can schedule a meeting with a professor at UFRPE. And when you show up at his office, he talks to you by WhatsApp and say, "Oh no, we would have this virtual meeting. I'm not at school right now." You see, "Oh yeah, I didn't realize that." Então, se marca uma reunião com o professor, aparece lá na sala dele. Quando você começa a falar com ele pelo WhatsApp, ele fala: "Não, não, é online. Eu não estou aí na minha sala, não." You say, "Oh man, I came to the school for nothing." All right, so technology is changing all the time. The way people do their work is changing too all the time. So, yeah, this second condition, it's not so absurd, right? Now, let's look at the third condition for a garbage can organization, okay? Now, take a look at this. Varying participation. What do you mean by that, Luis? Well, I mean, sometimes people show up, sometimes people don't. And say, come on, Luis, give me a break. There's no company in which things are like that. You have to go with your car there. You have to register your presence. Otherwise, you get kicked out. A maior parte das empresas tem que bater o ponto, passar o cartãozinho ali. Se você não aparecer todo dia, eles te demitem. And then I'll tell you, yeah, I see, I know that. But think about this. Have you been to school? Have you watched a class like this? And after spending like a whole hour here, you look back and say, well, I didn't hear one thing that Louis said. I was thinking about something else. I was watching sports game. I was thinking about, I don't know, some problems I have at home. Então, às vezes a pessoa está lá presencialmente, mas a cabeça dela está em outro canto. Então, essa ideia de participação variável, depois que inventaram essa criaturinha aqui, ó, que apita e chama a atenção da gente, honestamente, gente, eu não sei agora quantos de vocês que estão prestando atenção no que eu estou falando. I actually don't know how many of you are here with your minds here. Because some of you may even have this computer speaking to you there, but you're just like, I don't know, eating something, talking to your mom, having a call. You may have a phone call during this class, right? Sleeping. Yeah. So we don't know when people are actually there. And what we have these days, I use this expression. I think this is fantastic expression. Have you heard about this term? Impresença. Impresença. A pessoa está presente ou ela está impresente? Como é que a pessoa pode estar impresente? Ela está presente, mas ela não está nem ali. A cabeça dela está em outro canto. How many times have you had this sensation? You are talking to someone and the person is, oh yeah, yeah, you're right, yeah, go ahead. Sure, no problem. And people are just touching their cell phones and you are talking to them and they are like, yeah, sure. All right. Talk to you later. Okay. and the person has never heard a single word you said. So, this third condition, it is not as strange as you think. It may be possible, I mean, it may be even frequent these days, right? Now, pay attention to what we have just said. I gave you three conditions which are supposed to be anomalies, strange conditions. And somehow we can see that they are today. We're talking about today. This is the description of our days. So you may look at me and say, come on, Luis, what are the consequences of the three of those things? And I'll tell you, confusion, waste of time, inefficiency. And that's what we are seeing, at least after this pandemic. O que a gente está vivendo cada vez mais nas organizações nos dias de hoje é isso. As pessoas têm mudado as suas preferências de maneiras que a gente nem imaginava. A maneira de fazer as coisas. Cada um está fazendo de um jeito, está adotando novas tecnologias, está arrumando novos acordos. E a participação está cada vez mais variável. Tem hora que as pessoas estão ali, estão participando, estão super dedicadas e atenciosas. Tem outras que elas estão voando pelo espaço. All right. So let me see. Did I get your attention with this? Será que eu consegui a atenção de vocês para essa proposta tão bizarra de estudar os modelos comportamentais lata de lixo? Okay, guys. So just before I finish this class tonight, let me just tell you where you can find those creatures, okay? And you may say, come on, Luis, give me an example. And I say, okay, the first example I want to give you is like public sector. Nas agências públicas. Vai numa repartição pública, vai numa polícia federal, vai numa secretaria do departamento, vai para falar com o gerente do banco. Quando você encontra agências públicas, setor público, é muito comum a gente ter essas três coisas aqui, ó. Unstable preferences, uncertain technology, and varying participation. So this is our first suspect. If you want to find them, public agencies. Second example, schools and universities. Yes, universities have this characteristic of having the three things going on. Unstable preferences. Sometimes we think like this is the best idea. Some other times we want to do differently. Technologies are changing all the time. After all, we develop new technologies. We try them all. And we have varying participation. So, yeah, just for example, students, they change all the time. Some students finish their courses. Some other students are showing up for the first day of class. So we are changing the students all the time. We are changing professors. Some they retire, some new professors are hired. So it's all changing. Universities are pretty much like that. But you can find those creatures too in any sort of informal organizations. So when you have like a group of friends trying to schedule a churrasco, yeah, it works like that. If you have a group of friends who play soccer at the weekend, yeah, it works like garbage can. If you have like a condominium, yeah, take a look at this. At a condominium meeting, oh no, now we don't want that. Not we want something different. Oh no, we want cameras. No, no, we don't want cameras anymore. We want privacy. No, no, we need to increase security. We want cameras again. And then you say, who showed up? Oh, only two people. We cannot have a meeting with two people. Next time, who showed up? Oh, everybody's here. We have 45 members here. So sometimes people participate, sometimes they don't. Hmm. Reunião de condomínio, tá? Exemplo clássico de modelo lata de lixo, tá? All right, so they show up. If you want to find others, well, check if decisions are made, if they are not consistent, if they are changing all the time. Check if people make decisions based on their consequences and not because they think such and such decision is more appropriate. Okay? And check how people change the intensity of their participation when they are more active, when they are less active, more passive, when they react to other people's decisions, or when they stay put. Okay, if you want to find organizations that behave like garbage can model, you check for those things. Okay, now just to have a glimpse on how this all will end, I can tell you right away. In this sort of organization, success varies a lot. O sucesso de organização como essa pode variar demais, dependendo do timing according to which choices are revealed. Então, o momento em que as escolhas aparecem para ser feitas, the pattern of energy available over time, a quantidade de energia, de empolgação, de envolvimento e como que ela evolui ao longo do tempo, and most important of all, on how well structured this organization is. Se a organização for bem estruturada, esse comportamento que a gente está falando aí tende a ser minoria. Ele tende a acontecer muito raramente. All right. So this is a good introduction to the garbage can model. I'm going to stop talking about this right now, and I will return here to see if you guys have a question. A Aline usou a expressão a presença como sendo uma possibilidade de impresença. Very interesting. We have to think about that, because this is our days. Cada vez mais as pessoas estão conversando com a gente, estão pensando em outras coisas. A gente às vezes está tomando decisão no trânsito, ouvindo o professor falar, ouvindo alguma coisa no rádio. Our minds are kind of, floating around. We have to pay attention to this. All right, guys, so this is it for tonight. I'm going to stop recording here right now, and I'm going to be around for a few more minutes if you want to talk to me. Otherwise, enjoy your evening. Have a good night.